Well, I was really interested at a very young age. Around the age of 5, I knew that I wanted to either model or act or sing, if not all of the above. Um, I was always putting on little shows for the next door neighbors and things like that. And of course, I remember to charge admission. Um, but it was just something I always wanted to do. Literally just a childhood dream, and finally got the opportunity to do it. And in 1999, I met Mark. We met online actually, and he sent me the equivalent of about a 3-page letter just telling me all about himself, his interest, what he does. He was doing music at the time. So he was telling me a little bit about that, and we shared an awful lot of interests, and eventually it ended up that we did decide to do the movies ourselves and whatnot. He had tried his hand at writing some scripts, had a manager in LA and everything, but it just wasn't really working out. I don't know whether she was showing them to the wrong people or if there really was just no Hollywood interest in our films, which is that could be because we do, I don't know, don't really want to say underground, but we do have a little more underground feel, for lack of a better word, to our stories, and we just decided to do it ourselves. We both had the dream, we both had the desire for as long as we could remember, and we really were just kind of destined to be together, I think, just because of that. We mesh really well. It can be tough working together when you are husband and wife because you're with each other all the time, but it also helps, I think, to get the job done because you are both so determined to do everything and get it done right. From an early age, I had an interest in horror movies, horror stories, anything at all, especially vampires. Just not so much the romantic stories like the Dracula and things like that, but the really violent, evil ones that would just go and rip people's necks open. Grew up watching horror movies with my father. We'd stay up late at night because he worked odd hours, and that was just sort of our thing to do together. The late night horror shows that would come on, and I don't know. I've just always felt some sort of an affinity with things like that, the dark side of everything. It sort of got to a point where the little girls that were in the movies and whatnot, I can do that. I might be able to do that better than they do. I can run through the woods screaming with the best of them, so it kind of started with that. I never really saw myself as the Julia Roberts type. I didn't want to be the mainstream actress, and I had enough sense about myself that I knew if I ever did become a Hollywood actress, I would just be like a character actress. I wouldn't really be the star of anything, just because I didn't feel like I had a particular look for that. But with horror and the independent genre, you can be that level of actress, but not necessarily fit anybody's mold, and that's the main thing that I like about the independent films. There are no molds to fit. You don't have to be a Brad Pitt type or a Julia Roberts type. You can just be yourself and put forth your best effort, and you'll be just as successful. It just kind of flowed together naturally because I had the desire to be an actress. He had the writing ability and that desire. We put the two together on a project called Despair, which was a 30-minute short. Really just us and our pet rabbit at the time. We were the stars of the film. It was a suicide story, and it was somewhat autobiographical. Mark's character was a struggling artist and wasn't getting anywhere, got fed up, killed himself, wife comes home, goes a little bonkers. It just kind of goes from there. So that one was a little bit easier to make, I guess, because it was what we were feeling at the time to an extent. But we did that, filmed it in about 8 hours, I think, and really, really got the bug at that point. Mark had always been creating some way, whether it was music or writing or his stories, something like that. but this just really flowed for both of us. Mark had always made music. Started off, as a musician and a singer, but then he decided he wanted to do some instrumental type of things, and that really, what he was inspired by was like soundtracks, horror movie soundtracks, especially like the Italian horror films. And he decided he was going to try and do some instrumental sounds, and that really came off well. I was really impressed with what he could put together. But then, of course, it went hand in hand with the films that we were making at the same time. So now we have an immediate soundtrack with whatever film we could do, and it's a lot easier that way, I think, because you can adjust either at the same time. You're making the soundtrack at the same time you're making the film, and you can tweak it here and there to make it match really well. Whether you want certain things to happen at certain points in the music or what have you. And that led into making not so much songs, because they are still instrumental, but songs with a meaning behind them. And that's how we came to this project, The Powerful Play. This current project is a lot different than I'm used to. I'm used to relying on dialogue. I'm used to doing an actual film where there's a lot of action involved. But this is, it's more, it has the visuals, but it's kind of setting your own thoughts and emotion and letting that revolve around the music, which is a little bit difficult. There's a lot of still shots and whatnot, and it's hard for me to picture how everything is going to be when it's put together, but I know it's going to be wonderful. Everything usually is with our projects, luckily.